Steve, good morning to you.
Morning, Jan.
I read an interesting article this week that was talking about that a lot of people think that Trump is out there to prove himself on this trip, but that there actually is this feeling within NATO that they want to win him over, given some of his tough comments. There's a special flyover. They're dedicating this big new building today. He's going to take part in this remembrance of Article 5, obviously invoked for the only time after 9/11, that they are wooing him a bit. What do you make of that?
Well, I think for the most part, that's sort of typical diplomatic courtesy that one extends to the leader of a country, particularly in this case, the leader of the United States, which is, as Bill was talking about with Chris Steyerwalt, the de facto leader of NATO. And nothing, we must say, can outdo what the Saudis did for President Trump.
That was pretty spectacular.
It was. He said so himself.
Yeah, and now they're going to have this conversation here where we've talked a lot about how he said at one point NATO is obsolete. He had a lot of very negative things to say about it during the campaign. People often get into the White House, the Oval Office. They have different intel. They have a different way of looking at things when the realities of the world, square up with them. He is going to recognize, obviously, that this is a key military alliance, but at the same time really press for those nations who aren't coming anywhere near their obligations. How do you think those conversations will go?
Yeah, look, I think he can afford to be pretty tough here. I mean, as you said, he laid out his position on NATO during the campaign, overstated it a bit. There's no doubt that he has people around him like National Security Advisor McMaster, like General Mattis, and others who have stressed to him the importance of NATO as a strategic alliance and its role in keeping America safe. This is not a zero-sum game. This is an alliance where the United States gains quite a bit from being a part of it and helping to lead it. But I do think he has, he's got some capital here to push NATO member countries to make good on their commitments to spend what they've pledged to spend on defense. He can ask them to step up their involvement in the fight against ISIS and the fight against al-Qaeda and the fight against jihadists across the world, and I think he will do that. I think the real question, particularly on that second part, is whether he will also show that the United States is willing to lead that fight, lead the fight against ISIS, take on al-Qaeda, and have some skin in the game in a way that makes other countries want to participate along with us.
What about the issue of Russia?
Yeah, very interesting comments this morning from an EU leader who said, in effect, we don't see eye to eye on Russia. And the characterization that came out of that, at least according to Fox News reporting, was that Donald Trump was a little bit more optimistic about Vladimir Putin and the direction he was heading than the Europeans are. That will obviously have to be resolved. One would think that given the continuing sort of provocations that we've seen from Russia and from Vladimir Putin, that the president might revise his views on Russia and Vladimir Putin in much the same way that he did on NATO, broadly speaking.